So when I say life design, what comes to mind? If you're like most people, maybe it doesn't come in these words, but like there's this sense of almost like what's the point, or almost like resignation. I'm kind of stuck with what I got, designing my life of my design, life design, this idea. Like it's kind of like almost sounds like a dream. And I think for most of us, we've kind of stopped doing that because it's pointless to have dreams that we can't make real. And it seems probably kind of pointless to design a life that at a practical level, we probably couldn't afford. And there's probably a number of other reasons why we think, well, it wouldn't come to pass anyway, so what's the point? But what if it was worth designing your life? What if it was worth learning a method to very precisely and specifically design your life, not just what you think you might want or what would feel good, but truly what you were created and put on this earth for. And you knew that you could go out and get the skills, and there was a realistic way to make whatever needed to be true to be able to bring that life to life. Then would you have maybe a different reaction to or a different feeling about an idea like life design? So my name is Jeff Lerner. I am the CEO and founder, along with my wife, who's also my co-founder, of a platform called Entre, and obviously the creator of this YouTube channel. And Entre and this YouTube channel are built around a concept called life design, which is a practical way to truly create the life of our design. First to design it, and then to learn the skills and the tools to actually be able to bring it about. And when I say practically, what I mean is we deal with the hard realities of the world. I'm talking about money, and I'm talking about other people. And those are usually the two biggest obstacles we have to getting most of the things we want. Are we either don't have the resources, the money, or we don't have the relationships, the network, the connection, or even maybe just the support of the people around us. And life design deals with that in a very practical way. And it's really optimized around or designed around or to optimize for a concept called fulfillment, meaning the fulfillment of the life for which I was designed, the fulfillment of the scenario for which I was placed on this earth, the fulfillment that I crave in my heart, the feeling that I want to wake up with and carry through every single day of my life, and a practical, realistic way to go make that real in my life. In this video, I will explain how we came upon this concept, what we've done with this concept, our background and backstory that sort of, I guess, legitimizes our qualification to even evangelize this concept. And most importantly, the results that we've gotten helping thousands and thousands and thousands of people implement this concept to ultimately create a much more fulfilling and rewarding life for themselves. So I'm actually shooting this video for dual purposes. First of all, it's obviously the intro video to this YouTube channel, which is around this concept of life design, which we'll be expanding on. But it's also doubling as essentially an introduction to Entre, which is our company that's a platform that we call the Life Design Company or the Life Design Platform, because both this YouTube channel and our company are built around this concept of life design. So this is kind of a dual purpose video. The purpose of this channel is to basically give away as much valuable information as we can around life design, which again is specifically a practical method for you, the viewer, to be able to take the ideas that are presented on this channel and actually apply them in your life to move closer to the life of your design. Or maybe even a better way to say that is the life for which you were designed, the life that will fulfill the longing in your heart, the sense of need or the sense of void, ultimately like why you're on this earth, what it is that you're here to do. And we have this really robust, and again, I use this term practical because these ideas can, maybe in the absence of that clarification, could seem kind of ethereal or philosophical or impractical. But no, this is an extremely, almost brutally practical way to bring to life the life for which you are designed in this world, and that is ultimately going to give you what you truly want, which is a feeling. That's actually what everybody wants. We want a feeling fulfilled every day, right? It's not money that we want. It's not sex that we want. It's not even food that we want. It's a feeling of enough, That's what we want. And there's a life you can design and bring to life in your life that will give you that feeling every single day. And this channel and this method are designed to help you get there. Now, at its core, you're probably wondering already, like, what is he talking about, right? At its core, it comes down to one sort of breakthrough observation that came out of a lot of experience that Jacqueline, my wife, and I had in our life, which I'll unpack a little bit. But it's basically that the world of improving yourself, let's say all the courses, all the coaches, all the YouTube channels, all the paid platforms, communities, apps, you name it, everything that's under the umbrella of like things we can do to improve our lives, from meal plans and workout routines to relationship coaches or therapy to, training on how to do better at selling or make more money or start a business. Like, there's a whole gamut of ways we can improve our lives, right? Maybe even spiritual investments or inquiries we could do. Like, it's all under this general header of like self-improvement or bettering ourselves. It's all extremely fragmented, and it's all based on this very flawed idea that you can single out one area of your life and just kind of hammer away at that one area, and then it's ultimately going to produce what you want, which is a more fulfilling, more rewarding life. But the reality is everything is so interconnected that if you don't have an approach that is at least aware of or really even responsive to or integrated with all the other areas of your life, then it's going to be more like, let's say, treating a symptom rather than creating a cure. And so if you try to isolate and say, oh, I want more dates. I want to go on more dates. So I'm going to sign up for a dating site and that's going to, make me feel better in life. Or I need to make more money. So I'm going to sign up for a home business course that's going to teach me how to build a whatever, and that's going to solve all my problems in life. Or you sort of compartmentalize or isolate these different areas of your life around self-improvement. It very often doesn't produce the result. That's why the self-improvement industry, I would say one of the reasons why the self-improvement industry has an absolutely dismal failure rate. Like way above 99% of the people that sign up for virtually any category of self-help anything ultimately don't get what they really wanted, because what they really wanted wasn't just to move the needle in that one area of their life. It was a different feeling about their life day to day. And when it doesn't produce that feeling, not only does it get sort of labeled as a disappointment, but also typically it doesn't even get stuck with long enough to produce whatever the singular result that the thing was promising, much less the larger result of producing a feeling of fulfillment. That's ultimately what people really want in their lives. And so what Life Design does, and again, I'll unpack sort of how we got here, is it takes the holistic self, the entirety of a human life, and it systematizes in a way that's easy enough to actually bite off and chew and break into sort of actionable sequential steps of how to reorient or re-engineer our entire life around this concept of fulfillment. And at the nucleus of that is dealing with, what for most people is the biggest constraint or the biggest ceiling or lid. You can think of it as like a lid on what's possible for your life, which is financial resources, right? So what Life Design has done sort of novelly is taken the entire self-help, self-improvement industry, distilled it into a simple methodology that applies to all parts of our life, and coupled it with really practical solutions for making more money and changing what's possible for our life by changing our financial situation, changing our resource situation. Because ultimately, like the hard reality that we smack up against every day in our life, virtually anything we try to do, is that resources equals options. And most of the times if we're frustrated in our life, it's because we're limited to a set of unsatisfying options. And the only way to have a lot more options in most areas of our lives typically would be able to afford a lot more options. And in the absence of that, we end up settling for whatever we have accessible to us, which usually involves giving up on dreams, giving up on aspirations, giving up on the part of our brain that creates vision, even very often giving up on principles or morals or values, things that make us us or things that we hold dearly, but ultimately it becomes impractical to try to hold those things sacred while also practically going out and making a living. It essentially gets discarded as it's not an option for me to be true to my deepest principles because I literally can't afford it, right? And so we just sort of get to this place where here we are on YouTube watching videos on how to improve our lives. And that's not a criticism. That's not to mock it. It's to say that deep down, we never actually let go of the striving for more. We never actually stop seeking a different answer. But in the world today, again, it's been very fragmented and it's been very sensationalized. And we have a lot of these individual solutions offerings that not only don't deliver on what they say they're going to deliver on, they certainly don't deliver on holistic life improvement or ultimately a sense of fulfillment, but they're also, again, based on this false reductive premise that you can sort of isolate a point of pain in your life, and by addressing that, you actually create a desirable outcome. Now, and it's pretty obvious the reason they do this is because they, meaning the marketers, the people that want to sell you stuff, is because it's an easy sell, right? Hone in on an area where a person has a particular amount of pain and try to promise them a short, quick, easy, sort of low resistance path to making that pain go away and charge them X amount of dollars for it, right? It's pretty easy to see why the people that sell those programs and those solutions do that. It's maybe a little harder to understand why people buy them, except that they're desperate and they're in pain and they want the pain to lift and they're willing to trade money for a chance at that, even if maybe, you have a conversation like this with someone like me who's been around and kind of seen it all. You go, yeah, in hindsight, that probably wasn't going to make the pain go away and it probably wasn't going to solve the problem and it probably was going to be a waste of money. But what other choice did I have? Again, we were limited in the set of options that we have by the amount of resources that we have to invest in those options. So a little bit of backstory on why we started, how we developed this methodology, which obviously led to starting Entre and then ultimately now this YouTube channel. I come out of the online, what's called the MMO space, make money online space, right? It's basically all the programs out there that teach people how to do stuff, usually from home, usually leveraging the internet, kind of the digital home-based business or home-based entrepreneurship industry. I got into that industry back in 2008. So that's kind of one of the first important notes here is I've been doing this for coming up on 20 years. It's been, almost 20 years now that I've been in the online home-based business arena. I took some time out of it. I was in it for a while and so forth. But the point is, that's my experience. Now, prior to that, I was actually a jazz musician. I played piano, did gigs, clubs, weddings, cruise ships, hotels, whatever paid the bills. And I did that. I actually dropped out of high school to play piano because I, from a very early age, was wired around this concept of fulfillment. I actually grew up, my parents had a lot of money growing up. And so one of the advantages of that is because I actually was kind of an unhappy kid. I didn't have like a really happy childhood. And so I know I never made what I will call the mistake that a lot of people do of associating that I would be happier if I just had money. Because I had money growing up. My parents, like I said, were successful, but I was totally miserable as a kid. So I never had that false association. So when I dropped out of high school to become a musician, it was because I was actually seeking fulfillment. And I don't know that I had the words for it at the time, but I had this sense of like, go after something other than just money and, following society's playbook. And it was a long, meandering existence. But the point is, 2008, I pivoted into home-based business because I actually got into so much debt as a musician who was also an aspiring entrepreneur trying to be creative and do cool things and start businesses in the world because I just wanted a little more than I was getting as a musician. And I ended up in a ton of debt, but with like no employability or really marketable skill set. So I got into the digital home-based entrepreneurship space like a lot of people do, just needing to pay off debt. And it was $500,000 in debt. There's a whole other story of how I got in so much debt despite not even really having that much money in the first place. But I was desperate and I needed to pay off that debt or else I was literally going to lose everything. And going through that space, I was in that space from 2008 to 2012, which doing something called high ticket affiliate marketing, which the details of which don't really matter, but I'll just say that it was and still is to this day one of the most legitimate ways to actually earn a really good income from home. And I did. In about 6 months, I went from never having made more than about $60,000 in a year to making $60,000 or more per month, again, after only about 6 months, and then kind of rode that wave and did really well as a high ticket affiliate marketer, but I was also kind of a figurehead and a face and then eventually a program creator of other programs in the online home-based business space. So and incidentally, that's how I met my wife, Jacqueline, at that time. Her dad was in that space and introduced us and blah, blah, blah. There's a whole story there. But the point is, that's what we come out of. And we come out of that space. And the reason I'm taking the time to tell you that is we saw a lot of good and bad and ugly in that space. And then since then, we went on to start other businesses outside of that space. We actually had a successful exit. We've been on the Inc. 5000 5 times for 2 different companies we've started, and done really well as entrepreneurs. But it all started in that home-based sort of digital entrepreneurship space. And what we learned in that space ultimately, a decade later, became why we started doing the work that grew into Life Design, and why this channel exists, and why our platform Entre exists, and why we do what we do now, is because that space, and if you're watching this, there's a decent chance you've been through that space. You've been through some sort of online, how to make money from home type of program. And if you have, then you've been in the make money online space. That space is based on a wonderful premise that is almost always terribly executed. And here's what I mean. You get into that space and they sell you into it based on this very real idea, which is there are legitimate ways to make really good money from home in a way that is very lifestyle friendly, that gives you much more time and location freedom than you probably would get from other things you could do to make money, like namely a job. And there's more financial upside. So you have a possibility, theoretical possibility, at what we call total freedom, which is time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom all wrapped together. That's what we call total freedom. And that's the dream for most people, right? And they essentially get sold into the dream of saying, oh, sign up for this program or this system or this course and it's going to teach you how to do it. Well, that is all very real and very true in the sense that those opportunities do exist. They are learnable or accessible for most people. And when they're done well and they're successful, they can produce that total freedom outcome, which frankly, we've been living for most of the time since I got into that space in 2008, right? I met Jacqueline in 2010. And basically since then, we've had a life where we can buy most of what we want, I suppose, certainly anything a person needs, and go where we want, whenever we want, and do what we want when we want, and not have to answer to anyone or ask anybody's permission. And it was all enabled by the real opportunity that digital home-based entrepreneurship represents. So that's all true. Like I said, it's a wonderful premise, but it's horribly executed. I would argue it's executed in a predatory fashion on most people because of things that get left out of the conversation. So either they don't tell you how hard it's going to be, they don't tell you how long it's going to take, they don't tell you what the additional expenses are going to be such that you're really prepared to stay in it, as long as it takes. Or, and this is actually the bigger, sin of omission, they don't really tell you what it's going to take in terms of who you're going to have to become. And what I mean by that is when you have anything where the barrier to entry is pretty low, right? Like let's say a system to make money from home that costs $500 to get started and anybody can do it with an internet, a Wi-Fi connection and a laptop and a cell phone, right? That's a really low barrier to entry. Anything like that is, let's say billions of people could theoretically sign up for. If you want to be really good at it, it's probably going to take some other way of standing out, right? Like the math doesn't pencil out to say, oh, 1 million people signed up for this program and 1 million people all made $1 million doing it, because that would be $1 trillion. The reality is more like, oh, if 1 million people signed up for it, you might have 5,000 people that made $1 million. And then you'd have to ask, well, what was different about those 5,000 versus the 995,000 that didn't? And maybe that's a big number. Maybe most programs don't enroll 1 million people. But I'll tell you, for example, the first program I signed up for in 2008, a couple years later, when I had been enough of a standout in that program that they actually brought me in as an in-house consultant to advise them on running their operations and improving their operations, and I got to view all the numbers and all the data of that system. It had over 40,000 members in that system, and I would say less than 200 of them made any significant amount of money, meaning let's say thousands of dollars, and I would say less than 20 of them made enough money to live what most people would consider rich, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or more. Out of 40,000 people, only a couple hundred made any decent amount of money, and less than 24 made what we would call a lot of money. Why? What was the difference? Because it was all true that anybody could do it. It used replicated websites. It used duplicated advertising and marketing copy. It used a system that anybody with basic internet proficiency could access and utilize. Like, the opportunity was the same for everybody. So why is it that a couple dozen or a couple hundred people succeeded with it and tens of thousands didn't? Well, it was about the person. If I really look back on that, I would say the reason I was so successful with it, and I was one of their top 3 earners within about 6 months out of 40,000, is mostly because of my previous training as a jazz musician and as an actor. I was really good at delivering compelling messages on camera. I was really good at tolerating uncertainty because I had previously been a professional improviser who made stuff up on the spot all the time with people watching in a responsive, reactive way based on what other people were doing around me that I couldn't control, right? Like, I had a high risk tolerance. I had a high personal degree of confidence. I had a strong ability to speak publicly or to improvise compelling, marketing messages. I had a number of attributes that I would call sort of, general personal development outcomes or attribute outcomes that at the time came mostly from training as an artist. Now, nobody ever said going into that, hey, you'll really thrive if you have these skills. They just said, hey, this is a system that anybody can succeed with. But the actual outcomes were not at all reflective of that. And so what I will say is at least that program was honest about the fact that personal development is advised. Working on yourself is advised. That ultimately, I remember they referenced the Jim Rohn quote that your level of income will rarely exceed your level of personal development. So they did say, like, you got to work on yourself if you want to have a better outcome. And we did see a general correlation between people that embraced that and people that got good outcomes. But even then, like, frankly, and I still know the guys that created that program, one or more of them may see this video. So, like, no offense, guys, but your personal development sucked. Your personal development was not good. And most of what I would say, I was really fortunate that I had done what I'm calling personal development in the form of like theatrical and improvisational music training. But even then, what we went on later to do in terms of other forms of successful entrepreneurship, and not just financially making money and building businesses, but also sort of, let's say, I used to be a fat kid. I'll tell you that. Like, I've always had a really dysfunctional relationship with food, a lot of trauma, a lot of emotional stress, and was physically unhealthy for a good portion of my life. But like, now we're in really good shape, and we have a really good marriage, and we have a great family, and we have great children, and we have lifestyle freedom, and we have kind of this life that checks all these boxes of desirability and certainly fulfillment. But if we're to say what really produced all that, it was all this really intense, call it personal development or self-help work that we did. But it was like, it wasn't the stuff that gets sold in like cheesy online courses. It was like intense, like, hundreds of hours, well, thousands of hours a year, probably at least 1,000 hours a year of like therapy, group therapy, individual therapy, couples counseling, family therapy, different psychotherapy modalities. Like, we got hardcore. We also got hardcore on health and nutrition and hiring nutritionists and hiring someone to help us do meal prep and hiring personal trainers. And, we also did a bunch of work on our hormones and optimizing our endocrine systems and learning a lot about our biochemistry and, how to actually feel better, how to actually have the energy every day to go out and create the life. And we took parenting classes and learned how to improve our relationships with our kids and worked on our communication and, ultimately became, proficient in different communication coaching modalities. And, that was the work that ultimately produced the life that we really wanted and are proud to say we've got. But nobody told us that. And so what we've ultimately done now, this life design concept, is basically coming back around to our origins in the home-based business space and saying, okay, look, if you really, really want to create an amazing life, if you really, really want to design your life and then bring to life the life of your design in your life while dealing with the brutal practical constraints of there's only so many hours in a day, there's only so many days in a week, and most of us have a boss that doesn't let us work, most of them on what we want to work on. We have to work on what they tell us, and most of us don't have the money to try a bunch of different things, and most of us have some strain in some personal relationships where we don't have like infinite permission to gamble and experiment and try new things because there's somebody else who's yoked to us, who's like, you know, you're spending all your time on the internet and I never see you anymore, and if you don't change that, I'm going to divorce you. Or you spent our money on what? You know, no, that's not okay. You need to go ask for a refund. You can't keep buying these stupid courses and signing up for these programs. Like, most of us have all of these obstacles in our life that the only real way to transcend is to actually become a better version of ourselves and earn more money so that we have more options and we're the version of self that can actually, you know, take advantage of and thrive with those options. And you put all that together in this really muddy equation for most people that they don't see a way through. And there's no like mentor, sort of holistic mentor who's like, oh, well, let me show you the path. First of all, let's figure out what life you want. Most people don't even know what they want. Most people, what they know they want is just certain pain points to go away. And that's why they get preyed upon by marketers who sell, you know, Band-Aid solutions to individual pain points instead of a real long-term, you know, methodology that's going to produce a completely unique outcome, an outcome that's as unique as you, called the life of your design, the life that actually produces the feeling of fulfillment. It's a heavy subject, right? And so what we've done is we have melded this really intense, holistic personal development approach to what we know is actually at the core of most people's need and most people's set of options, which is their financial life. How much money they earn and what they have to do, what they have to give up to earn it. See, most people, they're earning enough money to produce only so many options, none of which are really desirable in the sense that that's what they actually want. But even within the limited set of options that they have, they're having to give up so much just to even have those options. So much in the form of time, so much in the form of energy. So this is most people's lives. Like this is likely your life. Statistically, probabilistically, this is likely your life. I give up most of my productive time and energy, and a lot of my, let's say, my joy, to make enough money to have a set of options that I settle for and still aren't even what I actually want in my life, right? So it's like we're sacrificing everything to not even get what we want in return. That's most people, right? Life design, I will just kind of bring us to a head here with a bold statement. Life design is the most realistic, practical, approachable methodology ever developed in the world to really deal with that reality for most people. And it takes all of the growth, or what we call the transformation work, that allows us to become that version of self, and it pairs it with the really, really practical and yet very simplified things that we need to do to just make more dang money so that we can expand the set of options we have. It's essentially the fusion of the home-based entrepreneurship industry and the self-help, or what I call the betterment industry, which spans across physical and personal and professional, and what we call purpose, or the fourth P. It's the three P's: physical, personal, professional, and then purpose is the fourth P. You take all the whole set of industries that sort of deal with improving our lives physically, personally, professionally, or finding purpose or meaning or even spirituality. You take all that, you combine it with the home-based entrepreneurship space, which is about how to make more money so that we actually can afford the things we might choose to do if we had more resources. You put all that together, simplify it, make it something that's paint by numbers. I don't want to say simple, I don't love that word, but like linear and sequential. That's like, okay, first do this, now do this, now do this. And the reason I actually will say it is very simple. It's just not easy, because there are steps in there that involve taking ourselves on. And fundamentally, that's probably the biggest difference between the life design methodology and all the BS methods out there that promise, whether it's weight loss, muscle building, better sleep, more money, more fulfilling jobs, happier relationships, whatever. Take all the solutions out there that offer those things and contrast them with what we do with Life Design. And I'll tell you the fundamental difference is that at Life Design, we're not going to tell you that it's going to be easy. You're going to have to take yourself on in some really, really like powerful ways. But it is very straightforward. It is very sequential. It is very doable for every single human on earth. Frankly, unless you have like an extreme cognitive handicap, maybe. I mean, like, sadly, there are some people who are so disabled that like Life Design or nothing else is gonna like help them produce the life of their design. But like short of that, anybody can do this. And so what we've basically done is we've come back around to where we started, where with Life Design, we're right back where I started in 2008 as a customer, being told, hey, there is a practical, realistic, accessible way for the average person to create a really rewarding and fulfilling life, starting with learning new skills to be able to increase your income and pay for a much wider set of options. And then the sort of the icing on that cake is, and by the way, you're most likely to succeed with all of that if you also layer in really, really good personal development. But then what we've done is we've actually upgraded the personal development that, if you look at what was available in that industry back then, or even generally what's available in that industry now, the personal development is really, really flimsy. It's basically like rah-rah positive mindset motivation stuff. But that's not what it takes. Like if you want to change, there's this concept called be, do, have, right? If you want to have different things in life, everything you have is a function of what you do. So if you want to have different things, you have to do different things. And everything that you do in life is a function of who you are. So if you want to do different things, you literally have to be a different person, because right now the person you are is already doing all the things you know to do, which is producing all the things that you do or don't have, right? So if you want to have different things, you have to do different things, which means you have to be someone else. And that's why real personal transformation has to be a component of any real life change. And so we've come back around to basically repair what, like I said, was a wonderful premise, terribly executed. Life Design, both the information you're going to get through this channel and also if you choose to explore it, our platform Mantra, is a wonderful premise, wonderfully executed, because all of the personal transformation components are legitimate, effective, proven, and frankly, we've been doing this since 2019, so we have 6 years of history and thousands of success stories, and it's all paired with home-based business done right, which this is the other big defect of that industry, the way it's typically done on the finance side, is that most home-based business offers are what I would consider like, that there's that saying that when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. They all have like hammer nail syndrome, right? Where let's say you come across a program that's selling the idea of becoming an affiliate marketer. Well, if you're someone who made $1 million doing affiliate marketing on ClickBank, and now you've created a course, and by the way, the number one ClickBank affiliate in the world is a friend of mine, so I'm not saying this critically, but if you've created a course on how you made millions of dollars with affiliate marketing on ClickBank, you certainly have a bias or a reason to believe that everyone on earth should become an affiliate marketer on ClickBank and take your course and learn how to do what you did. But the reality is, not everyone is suited for any one type of entrepreneurship, right? There's a lot of people who are never going to be able to fight through the technical challenges or develop the risk tolerance around the amount of advertising that it takes to really drive those kind of results with paid ads through affiliate market. Like, we don't need to get into the mechanics of affiliate marketing, but as someone that did it professionally for years and knows a lot about it, I can tell you it's totally right for some people, and it's absolutely would be a terrible decision for other people. Ditto for any other type of home-based business you can think of, whether it's maybe you have a lead generation business, maybe you have a digital services agency, maybe you do affiliate marketing, maybe you're self-publishing a book, maybe you host a podcast, maybe you're developing your own product for an e-commerce store, maybe you're building an e-commerce store selling name brand product, maybe you're building an e-commerce store selling off-brand products that you drop ship from China, maybe this, maybe that. There's, I know dozens of different home-based businesses. Some of them I could tell you wholesale to stay away from. Others I could say, oh, that totally could be the right fit for you, but I need to know more about you. Do you like sales? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Are you good on camera? Do you feel confident, with writing? Could you become a good a direct response copywriter? Are you willing to pick up the phone? Do you like talking to people? Are you good with technology? Do you actually know how to code? Maybe not. Do you know server-side coding versus just browser-level coding, which would be like web design? No? Okay. What about no-code solutions? Are you good enough with technology to like navigate a funnel builder software? No? Yes? No? Like, there's so many questions before anybody could prescribe what home-based business you should get involved in. And so we've essentially dealt with all of that. And the life design methodology says, okay, let's match you with the right program. Let's get you involved in the right personal development. Let's help you understand what real skills it's going to take. And is it more? Is it more than just buying some gimmicky, cheap BS program that promises you a super oversimplified solution? Yes. Einstein also said, always make things as simple as you can, but do not ever make them any simpler. And that's the problem, is the self-improvement industry tries to make improving your life simpler than it can actually responsibly be. Whereas what we've done with life design is we've said, look, there's a lot of moving parts to a life. And if we're going to improve the totality of a life, there's a number of boxes we're probably going to need to check. And obviously, and especially the one about helping people make enough money and do so in a way that's lifestyle friendly to be able to actually afford and fund the life of their design. But there is one integrated, holistic way to do it all. And that is what we offer through our platform Mantra. And that is also what we will be giving away for free here on this YouTube channel. So hopefully that's enough information. I don't know how long this video's been, but probably long enough. So let's leave it at that. If you're interested in learning more about life design, by all means, subscribe to this channel. If you're interested in actually taking action on some of what this channel is going to share with you and you want some support in doing so, you can check out our platform Mantra at any time. In any case, my name is Jeff Lerner, and hopefully this is just the beginning of our journey together, in which case I am so excited to travel it with you. All right, thanks. See you in future videos.